I want to talk about voter ID in the States for a second. Um, when I heard that black people were going to be required to show ID when voting, um, I was a little concerned about that. I said, why are the blacks being asked to identify themselves when white people or nobody else is? The Democrats were in a tizzy over this, and I didn't blame them. I couldn't understand why the Republicans weren't angry about it. It seemed racist, in my opinion. Why ask one group to identify themselves when voting and nobody else? But then when I looked into it, it's not just black people being asked to identify themselves when voting in an election. It's everybody. Everybody has to show ID. So what the Democrats in America are so upset about is that blacks are being treated like everybody else. I thought that was the whole point, is that you treat everybody the same. But things have gone so far now in the States that, if black people are not getting preferential treatment, that is somehow now a problem. So, yeah, I think this wokeism and the affirmative action and all of the ways that black people have been preferentially treated lately, in a kind of misguided effort to make up for the injustices of the past, when you actually give them equal treatment, it seems like oppression. When they've been people have been placating them for so long, in the last decade or even more, then when you actually give them equal treatment, it seems like then they're being discriminated against. It's astonishing. Why did they pick black people out? Why not Chinese people or Latinos or the Jews or any other group and said, oh, this is terrible racism? How could it be racism if you ask everybody to adhere to the same standard? It's astonishing. There was a great video in the States recently where a guy was interviewing random black people in the streets and said, well, have you got an ID? Of course. Do you know any black people that don't have IDs? No. I mean, everybody has an ID. It's the kind of thing in America, you need an ID, the argument is that black people can't get an ID or something so racist like that. It's so patronizing. A black person can't get an ID. How dumb do you think these people are? I have enough respect for black people in America that I assume that they're capable of anything that anyone else is capable of. The Democrats are, going back in history, they were the party of racism, and it appears that they still are. And another thing that is kind of confusing to me, they're against the voter ID stuff, but then they have no problem with supporting the notion of vaccine passports. So if you want to do something that is far less consequential than like voting in an election, like go and have a meal somewhere, they're okay with having to identify yourself for something as trivial as going to a restaurant, but they're not okay with, upholding the integrity of a democratic system by providing ID when you're voting in an election. This is why the left has gone completely insane. Maybe it's me, but that doesn't make any sense at all. They're for one kind of ID, but not for another kind of ID. It's all just brute politics, and it's so disingenuous.